Hello, I'm Ed Clark with Watt, and I am here today with Dr. Dave Weatherspoon, an economist at Michigan State University at the Novus Media Days. Dr. Weatherspoon, could you explain why you are looking for relatively rapid agricultural development in Africa and what that means for global trade?
What we're seeing happening in Africa at the moment is a rapid increase in foreign direct investment from a number of countries, but particularly from China, particularly from some of the oil-rich nations as well. And they're securing property as well as other assets to increase production for re-export back to their country. And so with that investment and the great returns on that investment that they're seeing, we expect the foreign capital to make the infrastructure improvements, address the ports, address the roads, some of the bridges, those types of things that will make transportation of goods easier. If you look at the cost of production, it's also relatively low in many of the countries in Africa. And so with that foreign direct investment, we would expect to see a major increase in production. And it wouldn't take a whole lot, because if you look at the percentage of cultivars that are of modern cultivars, you'll see that there's not as much being used there. I think somewhere around 25% for certain crops where there are modern cultivars being used in the region. So we'd expect this foreign direct investment to also adjust the types of crops that are being produced, as well as the quality of the inputs. The other thing that we see is human capital development being improved. With the number of firms that are investing there, they're also bringing in human capital, but there's also development of domestic human capital to meet the needs of the nation. So that's the other part to this equation. And then lastly, I would say leadership. We have modern leadership, leadership that's interested in meeting the needs of the domestic population, but also increasing export flows in many of the African countries. So with those three things, I believe we'll see rapid development in those markets. First and foremost being the foreign direct investment. So with that, we would expect trade flows to start changing. And if you look at China's investment alone and their exports and the amount of trade that they're doing with Africa right now, I think that reflects the impact that they're going to have. We also see other resource strained or constrained countries making similar investments, and those that are interested in biofuels also investing there. So trade flows could be dramatically changed when you have this foreign direct investment. Some of the concerns you have is the typical food versus fuel type trade-offs that we hear discussed a lot in the news, but very little analysis has been completed on that. When you look at the trade flows, you then have to think about, well, what should firms do? And if a firm is a global firm, which most of our agribusiness firms are, they have to reevaluate sustainability efforts as well as meeting the demand. We know that the demand is growing in a lot of developing economies. We also know that you need to be closer to your customer to meet some of the sustainability movement criteria. So with that combination, firms need to start thinking about where's the best place to locate their production facilities, where's the best place to, how do you best meet the demand, the growing demand, and the current needs of populations. And if you look at any of the population growth charts for globally, you'll see that the fastest growing cities aren't in Europe or in the US, they're more in China, Africa, I should say Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So that creates an issue for meeting your clients' needs and how do you grow in the future. And so I think those are some of the things that the firms need to think about as they evaluate their expansion plans.
Are you looking at primarily crop development or a combination of crop and livestock development?
I look mainly at crops right now. Livestock development, because the cold chain is not as well developed in Africa in particular, the various countries in Africa in particular, except for South Africa. That's a much more, a larger investment that's required there. And I haven't seen that investment being made yet. So there's a possibility that, yeah, the livestock side will come along with it. But right now, I'm thinking more about on the crop side, particularly because of the biofuels.
Dr. Weatherspoon, thank you very much.